my home. As perhaps you can see, I've got my phone back, so that means I hope that our video quality and sound quality is going to be okay again. Thank you for putting up with that, those of you who did over the last couple of weeks. I hope it didn't put you off. So welcome to Friday's Yin Yoga session. If anyone is there who hasn't done it before, then welcome especially to you. It's great to have you here. If you've done yoga before, then you may well recognize many of the poses, but even if you haven't, that's not a problem whatsoever. But I would just tell anybody, whether you've done yoga before or not, please bear in mind it is a slightly different approach to perhaps what you're used to with most forms of yoga, in that we are in the poses for a number of minutes and we aim to stay relatively still and relaxing the muscles. So just to let you know that. I will be giving, at the start of each pose, I will be giving some adjustments, so please spend some time using those adjustments so that poses suit you and your body. It's not important whatsoever what it looks like. This is a completely functional form of yoga, not aesthetic. The shapes that you're making don't matter as long as you're feeling stimulation in the body. So let's get started. If you have props, then please grab them. Blocks or books, a blanket, cushions or pillows, and you can also actually use things like chairs and sofas, and I need to get a bit more creative with that. I will do in future sessions. But to start with, just come to a seated position if you're not already. And just bring the soles of the feet together. I hope you can't see my feet, they're not very beautiful. Now, in a more yang form, a more active form of yoga, you tend to bring the feet closer to you. In yin, you can have them close to you if you want, but you can also move them further away. We're trying to feel a stretch in the inside thighs and in the back. One, the other, or both. So play with the position of the feet and fold forward, maybe first, before you play with the position of the feet, and then see where you find a stimulation in the legs and or the back that's not too much or too little, and is okay for you to stay in for around 3 minutes or so. So bear in mind that if you push the feet a bit further away, then that may help you fold forward more, but perhaps you might lose the stretch in the legs then. Play with it. You can even separate the feet if you want to as well. And if you feel at all that you're not folding forward, you'd like to fold forward more and feel more in the back, then it's always useful to sit up on something. I'm going to go sideways actually. Many people, me being one of them, their hips tend to fall back, and then obviously the back rounds. We do want the back rounded, but we want it forward rounding rather than backwards rounding. So play with it, play with the pose, play with the legs, sit up on something if you want to. Put something underneath the knees or the legs if you're feeling anything, if you're feeling any pain in the knees. And then for around 1.5 minutes now. No. Almost 1.5 minutes. Just allow yourself to relax into the pose. And as I mentioned, if you haven't done yin before, then there are 4 different principles to the practice. So first of all, I guide you, or you find your way into the pose. Then you relax the muscles. Then you resolve to stay still, relatively still in the pose. And then the fourth principle is coming out slowly, gently, gingerly. So we've spent some time getting into the pose now so that it suits us, our individual bodies. So that we're getting a stimulation in the body, as I said, that's not too much or too little. Something that's just right and we can relax into, potentially getting deeper over time. It very often does, but in its own way. Then we resolve to stay relatively still. Relaxing the muscles so we can get deeper into the deep connective tissue of the body, to exercise the other parts of the body, not just the muscles, which we would do in a more active form of yoga or exercise. So 3 minutes is up, so just roll up gingerly, gently. You could very well feel a bit fragile, a bit tender. Maybe hold on to the knees and bring them in. If you're sitting up on something, you might want to move it away now. And before we have any movement, then just close your eyes. Maybe put the feet on the floor. The spine is neutral now. And just notice those areas that we just stretched, the back, the inside thighs, and just see how they feel just for a few moments before we start moving again. And then when you feel ready to bring some movement in, you can just drop the knees to one side and then to the other side. So this is what you might call yang activity. So something that is opposite to yin. So there are certain qualities with yin which are, for example, when we're talking about yin yoga, anything, actually passive, quiet, still. Whereas yang, we can use words such as moving, active, dynamic. Now, although of course wouldn't call this movement particularly super dynamic, it is compared to the yin pose, and this is the point, it's all in comparison. Yin and yang are all relative. So if, for example, we were doing a really hard, intensive yoga workout or a run or something really active, that would be more yang than what we're doing now. But what we're doing now is yang compared to that pose, that yin pose that we did at the beginning, butterfly. Okay, so let's move into the next one. So the next one is called sitting swan. So this is more for the arms more than anything, but it's going to be different for different people. Bend the knees, place the feet on the floor. So you might want to raise the hips to do this. Put the right ankle over the left knee. And you may be feeling a bit of an opening in the glutes, in the right leg somewhere, maybe in the glute area, side of the leg, or maybe a different place. Maybe quite intense, it may not be at all. If you want it to be a bit more, you might want to bring the foot on the floor closer towards you. For example, you can play with that top leg. But actually what we're going for more, it's great if you've got that, but what we're going for more is the arms. So I just want you to play with the arms, move them around until you're feeling some sensations in the arms. So for example, maybe an opening in the chest. Let's say if you put the hands closer together. Remember, this is passive though. We're not opening, we're not pushing open the chest. We're keeping it relaxed. But you can try separating them as well if you want. So more than likely what you're going to be feeling is a bit of compression in the arms and the shoulders, and find where it feels, where you feel that stimulation for you. Hands can be facing any direction, by the way. In fact, mine are better if I put them that way round. And then close your eyes, and we'll be here for around 2 minutes now. Now I say in Yin that we stay relatively still. However, if you feel at any point that it's not really working, that you've lost the stimulation, or that it's got too much, then adjust the pose. So for me, for example, I started with my hands one direction and I've realised that's not really working. So I'm just going to adjust the pose. Also, of course, if something starts hurting you, then definitely adjust the pose or even move out completely. Always be aware it's fine to move out completely and just move into a neutral position, lying on your back or your front, child's pose, sitting, something neutral. Notice if you're tensing or clenching anything, and see if you can just release that area. Just another 15 seconds or so. And if your shoulders are shrugged up, which they probably are, that's okay, that's fine in Yin. Don't worry about that. Okay. So then in your own way, just move out from this side. And then you might just want to hold on to the knees again briefly, or you might just want to move directly to the other side. But it's always quite useful to have a bit of a pause when you're doing two different sides, just to see, just to notice how it feels before you go to the other side. So let's all go to the other side if you haven't already. Now, if anybody's doing this and you're feeling it's a bit too much on the wrists, then you can always move the hands more to the sides. And also, as I said, play with the direction of the fingers as well. Okay, so then we're going to put the left ankle up above the left knee. Play with the position of the legs if you need to feel a little bit more stretch. For many people there won't be much stretch there, but for some there will, which is great. You've got more then. And then play with the position of the hands. Yeah, play with the position of the hands. I'm actually going to put mine a bit further forward this time. And that also gives me less pressure on the wrists. I've done a lot with my wrists today, so I want to... Yeah, it doesn't need to be the same on both sides. And then close your eyes. And we'll be here for around 2.5 minutes. And what you may notice, as with everything, in any situation, that maybe there is more possibility of it happening in times of stillness and quiet, like this, for example. You may notice that nagging voice inside you, that inner critic telling you that you're not doing this right, that you could be doing it better, maybe that you're useless, you'll never be able to do this, or maybe it's nagging you about something that you haven't done today, or something that you did do today and it's telling you that you did it wrong. So many different things it could be. So what I would say, and of course I'm not the authority on this, but I'm just saying maybe try. The because it may well come up in times of stillness, like in Yin Yoga. So we can use it as practice for other times. Is in the same way as you would with thoughts in a Yin Yoga session or in a meditation session. Just acknowledge what that inner critic is saying, and then just see, is there actually any grain of truth in there? Is there actually something useful in there? Maybe there is, maybe there isn't, maybe it's just overt criticism. But maybe there is something useful there. So rather than ignoring it, just notice it, acknowledge it, see if you can take anything from it, and then let it go. It's all part of our experience. Okay, so let's move out of this one in your own way, whatever that is, maybe raising the hips up, for example. And again, you can straighten out the legs if you want, or you can keep them bent. Close your eyes. Notice how the body feels, how the arms feel, the shoulders, maybe the legs, or perhaps another place completely. And then if your wrists, if your hands are feeling like they've taken quite a lot of weight, mine do, then just make some movements. So for example, some small fists, getting bigger and bigger. Perhaps you might want to circle the wrists. In the same way that all our tissues need exercising, not just the muscles. I can't remember what I was going to say. I'll tell you if it comes back to me. It was probably something about hands. Oh, I know. Rather than just one particular type of exercise, as it were, so for example, stretching out tension. Also remember that there are lots of other ways, so twisting, compression. So this is something that we just did now. We compress the arms, we compress the shoulders, we put some load onto them basically to try and help those tissues, the connective tissues, to become healthier, to become stronger and healthier. Maybe you can hear that music outside. So let's move on to the counter pose. So just put the hands on the floor again, if that's okay, on the wrists. And then you can just raise the hips up, and you can just move the hips around in whatever way works for you. You don't even have to, you can just keep your bum on the floor if you prefer, that's fine. Yeah, just you can even raise the hips up further if you want to, come into a kind of tabletop position, and you can do like a bit of a crab walk. It's quite nice doing a crab walk actually. Yeah, moving wherever you want to, and then come back down again. And then let's move into the next pose. So I'll give you a choice for this one. It's going to be half butterfly. And you might want to set up on something again, maybe. I'm going to set up on something. Maybe not. Again, play with it. So you can do two different things. So first of all, put the right leg out straight to the front, bend the left knee, and then put the left foot in the right thigh. Then fold forward. So if you have the leg out straight, then the likelihood, not necessarily for everybody, but the likelihood is it's more likely to be stretching the back of the thigh. So you might want that. You might want to stretch on the back of the thigh. The other option is to have it out to the side. Yeah, and then fold forward. And then you may well feel that the stretch has become more to the inside thigh. Now this may be what you want. So you choose, do you want it more at the back or do you want it more at the inside? You can also play with the position of the torso. Notice how that changes also, not just the position of the leg, but the position of the torso also changes where the stretch is. You could even go sideways if you wanted to and bring more of the target area, less so in the leg, more on the side of the body, if you wanted to do that as well. For me, I'm going to have my leg out to the side because it doesn't do much for me actually when it's out to the front, unfortunately. And then I'm going to fold for me kind of middle-ish. But you do what you want to. And we'll stay here for around 2 minutes. Allow yourself to relax. And remember, if that voice comes up, see what it says. Be friendly to it. But if it still continues to be just plain mean, just wave it goodbye. And if you wanted to experiment with this a bit, now as I said before, then we aim to stay relatively still, but that doesn't mean that you can't experiment and move a bit. But when you do it, just really pay attention to the movements that you're making and just make them really, really slight, really small, really paying attention to what's going on in the body. So maybe, for example, moving very slightly to one side. Seeing how the stretch in the leg, maybe the back changes. Perhaps rotating the leg a little bit. Very small, small movements so that you're noticing, you're paying attention to what's going on. And then maybe finding a place that you're really finding some tension and that you'd really like to stretch out. Then stay. Then stay still again. By all means, experiment. So, let's move out, coming up. Bending the right knee, maybe holding on to the knee if you want to, just bringing it in, placing the foot on the floor just for a couple of moments. Feel the difference. How does the left leg feel compared to the right? Just noticing that. And then we'll go to the other side. Again, same thing. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to do it exactly the same on the left side as you did on the right side. Maybe the left side, actually, what you'd like is a bit more of a stretch in the hamstrings. And remember, it doesn't necessarily need to be either straight forward or straight out to the side. It can be something in the middle. as well. So I'm going to put mine actually a little bit more in the middle, and this time I want to fold more over the leg. For me, that's what I want to do. This side feels a bit different to me. But remember, just play with it until you find what your body wants, what it needs, where the tension is. And then we'll stay for 2.5 minutes. Soften the body. See if you can release any tension, anything that's clenching. Relax the muscles. So let's roll back up to center. Again, bend that left leg, bring the foot in. Stay there for a couple of moments if you want to, comparing the left and the right. And then when you're ready to move into the final pose, into Shavasana, then please do. You can do this in any neutral position that you want. So the most common one is lying on the floor, on your back. So please make your way into a lying position on your back or on your front if you want. Or you can sit for a couple of minutes if you prefer. As long as you are neutral and you are comfortable. If you do decide to sit, then it might be an idea to sit up on something so that you're not falling backwards and using the muscles of your back then, not able to completely relax. The easiest one is just to lie down, actually. You know you're going to be able to soften the muscles then. So just whatever position you're in, just get comfortable. Just let the arms and the legs flop out to the sides, or just allow them to settle wherever they may be. Close your eyes. Feel the effects of the practice. And in a minute or so, you're going to hear a bell. There's going to be 3 chimes. Just wait until all 3 chimes have gone. Listen to the end, right to the end, until you can't hear any sound at all. And then once that's gone, then make your way up to a seated position if you're not there already. And just take your time. Please don't rush. Slowly, slowly coming back to a seated position. And if you're seated already, then just maybe just move a little bit, small movements, keeping the eyes closed. Perhaps circling the neck, twisting a bit. And then when everybody's back to center, if you just want to open the eyes. And that's all for today. Thank you for coming along. I hope you enjoyed the Bee Gees music outside. I was finding it quite hard not to dance. Yes, thank you for coming, and please do join me again next Friday for Yin Yoga or next Wednesday for Yin Yang Yoga. Thank you very much. Have a great weekend.